Okay, hello, Trey. I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation and you sharing a bit about your incredible stories of life and obstacles and continuing on in a positive light despite any kind of challenge that comes at your way. So I just find you incredibly inspiring and empowering, and I'm so grateful that you are here to chat today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Would you be open to just giving a quick intro, perhaps, of who you are, where you're from, what you're about, and then we can talk a little bit about your story.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Nicole. I am Trey Roth. And I am from Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I am. And I am a technology entrepreneur. I'm actually a music producer turned technology entrepreneur. And so there's a bit of a story there. I'm the father of four under the age of 10 right now. Actually, we're nearing the end of 2019 here, about to start the 20s, which is exciting. And our daughter, Emmy, is 9. My son, Maddox, is 7. Jet is 5, and Denver is 2. So that gives you an idea of what's going on. We tell people that we have 2 startups. We have the family startup, and then we have the business startup. And so I feel like we're living like a movie in a way, like some kind of reality TV show. But it's very exciting, and so that's the little snapshot.
Awesome. Yes, I love that too. Two startups, because I only have one and it feels like a startup. So I have one child. So I definitely can appreciate the experience. Awesome. So I'm really, one of the stories that you've shared before, and I was so inspired the first time you shared it, was a little bit about your background as a child and your experiences with meeting a special someone. Are you okay to share a little bit about that part of your journey?
Absolutely. All of us have a dream, and we have something that we want that's like seemingly impossible. It's like, really, is that really possible? And certainly, we have that as a child, growing up to adult. That's just a part of who we are, and it's part of our wiring. And it comes from a desire, and desire has Latin roots of the Father. So it's like a divinely given want, And so I had one of those as a kid. It was actually the summer between 3rd and 4th grade. On a playground, I meet this girl, and I mean, it's the proverbial, the clouds parted and the sun shone through right on her, and I was like, I mean, I remember, you remember like things because emotion sears the memory. And because of how I felt in the moment, I actually do remember seeing her for the first time. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is that? Like, that is just like, she is just beaming, beautiful, confident, kind, just, I was just, fell in love immediately. She did not fall in love with me right away. I was actually a chubber, chunky kid, overweight, really bad skin, really bad teeth. My teeth were actually mangled up and tangled up knots, such that I actually tried to stay in a bad mood so I wouldn't be tempted to smile because kids made fun of me. And it was just bad. And so I was like introverted. I did not talk at all. And so I have this like crush on this girl, and 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, I mean, I've just this crush at a distance. And and I was definitely like in the friend zone, and there was no way out, or so it seemed. So I finally started like taking care of myself, and I started running down our subdivision from midnight to 2 a.m. every night. I didn't want people to see me, and so I would run, and I remember like being chased by a dog, and it was just like super scary, but still I just kept going, and just afraid that a dog was going to chase me and get me. But so that year of 8th grade, I lost a good bit of weight. I grew, like a foot taller. My skin got better, and I had gotten braces, so my teeth started to straighten up, and I just started to build confidence. I also read a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, which has a chapter on smiling. So I started smiling
In grade
for the
8, you
first
read that.
time. Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
my
And so,
goodness. How
yeah,
did
it
you get
was
your
life
hands on
changing.
that book in grade 8?
That book was life changing. I highly recommend that book. I've read that book several times now. I love it.
Amazing.
Yeah, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so it just talks about smiling, um, what goes around really does come around. And so if you're never smiling, people don't really smile back. If you're smiling a lot, people will smile back at you. And so I learned that firsthand, finally, for the first time. It was like a revelation. And so in ninth grade, it's the beginning of ninth grade, I finally work up the nerve and build the courage to go up to her and ask her out. And she said yes. And so we actually dated for 7.5 years to the day of our wedding. And then we've now celebrated 12 years of marriage, and we have the 4 kids we talked about when we were 14 years old. So I say all that to say, dreams really do come true. You might have to work your butt off, literally in some cases, but dreams do come true. And so that was the first time, Nicole, that I saw like that persistence pays, and that the seemingly impossible really can become reality. And I had a moment too where I remember looking in the mirror before that journey in 8th grade. It was like 7th grade. And I just had this knowing, like, it ain't happening. Like, I looked in the mirror and I just had this moment of clarity of like, no, like, she would never have interest in a guy like me. And it was because also I just didn't have interest in myself. Like, I didn't respect myself. I didn't talk. I was just, it was, I was just, I don't know. I was just a shell of what I didn't even know I could become. And so it was that personal growth realization, and my entire life. I mean, Ashley and I live this wonderful life together, and literally every day it's like, wow, this is that girl, that same girl. When we were now our daughter's age, like our daughter is now as old as we were when we met, which blows my mind. And I remember saying, like, just a little prayer in middle school. I was like, God, if you ever give me Ashley, I'll give her the best life I possibly know how to, And it was just one of those, like, just like innocent little middle school prayers. But now, like, in my adulthood, I'm like, okay, no, I've like got to make good on that promise. I remember that prayer. Let me get better at like making good on that promise, and so it's a joy, and it's it's a privilege, and it's not something that you just like in general have an appreciation for. It is a daily awareness of the gifts. So whoever your partner is, or your spouse is, whoever is goodness closest to you in your inner circle, even not just your partner, but especially your partner. It's so important to remember the why and appreciate them as a human, which I know if they're human, they're not perfect. And you are faced with that reality. That is real, now mine is, but I'm kidding.
If she's listening
So
later.
yes, I do. I say, I'm married to the best person, like, and so anyway, I say all that to say, like, I see the value in appreciating and bringing to your conscious awareness, like the why, like, why am I of all the, how many ever people have ever existed. I don't know what that number is, how many decimal points, like, of all the people that have ever existed, of the 7-ish billion that exist today, of the however many billion or trillion or centillion or Google people, however many people are to exist in the future, like, this is who I'm with here and now. And so I want to treat them with that kind of reverence and that kind of appreciation. And guess what? When you love loving the people in your world, especially your partner, when you love loving, if this is one message that your viewership, because your viewership, like whoever's listening to this, they have relationships, they have close relationships, and they're dynamic. Those people are not perfect. So when you get really good at and you look for ways in which you can accept them for, you can accept them, not only accept, like toleration is different from loving, and cherishing, that's another level. And that's what I'm encouraging. If you can get better and better at loving people, and another way to say it is love loving people. Love loving people. And what I mean by that is like they're imperfect. So don't accept them or tolerate them or just love them or cherish them. Like, cherish them for who they are, really, not who you wish they would be.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that, there is a freedom that comes with that you yourself experience. People give the love that they have to give. And some people have a bit more love to give than others in certain given moments, depending on what's going on in their lives. We all have problems. You're not alone in whatever problem you're facing. I think that I was thinking about it this morning, Nicole, where I do think that everybody is going through some kind of problem where if everybody knew about it, they would say, "Are you okay?" Like, "How you doing?" Everybody's dealing with some kind of problem, including your partner. And so when you can accept people for who they are and love them, not just tolerate, but love and then cherish people for who they are, you experience that joy. You experience those emotions. Like, that is for you and for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so love loving who
Yeah.
you have. And so I know that's just journey. I'm not like perfect at that. I'm not, I am intentional about that and to grow in that skill, because it is something that you can be intentional about. And instead of being fixed minded about it, like, well, I love her with all the love I have to give, and she loves me with all the love that she has to give, and that's it. And we're going to experience this level of connection and appreciation for each other, and it's just going to stay in a stagnant. That is fixed, and that is not nearly as exciting as looking for ways to grow yourself in regards to appreciating your partner, loving your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where are you tolerating where there is margin for love? Where are you loving where there is margin for cherishing,
Mm-hmm.
adoring, adoration?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you tolerating where there's so much margin there's adoration there for you to experience as you give it, and for them to experience as they receive it, especially in regards to grace. Like, even if they don't like deserve it based on their behavior or whatever, and y'all are at odds and you're like, how could he, how could she, whatever, where can you extend grace? You get to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so loving, that is like
Mm-hmm.
one message that I would share based on my experience. Not saying that I'm perfect at that, but I'm certainly growing.
Absolutely.
And I'm excited because I know if I'm experiencing this kind of love and adoration now, what about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What is it going to look like if I'm ever increasing in that ability to love? Like, yeah, I believe that we have the capacity to experience love beyond what is normally practiced culturally.
Mm-hmm.
And so where are we taking our cultural cues in how we treat the people we love most? And, in relation to our ability to, to go way beyond tolerating the people that we have in our world, but to appreciate them, love them, and then cherish and adore them. That's where it's like, dang, like of all the people I could be talking to, even like I appreciate you, Nicole, like for this experience right here. I have a very sound awareness. I have an appreciation for the fact that there is a 1 in 400 trillion chance that we're even alive. So there are even greater odds for you and I to have connected from Canada and Atlanta and to have this conversation in real time on a screen. Like this is like unprecedented. This is, it's really cool. Like, yeah. And as an entrepreneur, with entrepreneurs listening to this, I even think about, and I get fired up about how somebody envisioned this. Literally everything we see was seen twice, first in the mind's eye and then in reality. And even this conversation, this, recording was envisioned. Like people should be able to do this. Humanity should be able to do this. Connection should be able to do this. So,
Absolutely.
And now we're doing it. And so that fires me up.
Well, thank you so much. I feel so inspired every time you share anything, actually. And I love your present moment awareness. It's beyond anyone I've met who's just are so acutely aware of the odds of every moment and just truly appreciating each moment. But I wanted to recap a couple of things you said, just since we're really talking about this relationship and love and appreciation. And I think like culturally, you mentioned culturally and the differences between what's actually possible for us to experience versus what kind of society has made acceptable, or it's really a paradigm. It's a cultural paradigm in North America and then probably in a lot of places in the world that, when you get married and with kids, then you kind of, people just accept that this potential of kind of becoming, it's almost these funny movies about it where you might annoy your partner, or you might kind of drift apart and not really have that emotional connection that that you maybe had at the beginning of the relationship, and really forgetting that it's possible to hold on to that, to recreate that, not only to maintain it, but what you're saying also is really to grow and expand and just feel even a higher level of love and adoring. That's not really what we're culturally, the cultural norm is definitely not that experience. But it's so incredibly powerful the way you shared that, and also the potential. I also, when you were saying that, it made me realize also the one of the laws, one of the laws of all laws, like the boomerang effect. When you are sharing appreciation and gratitude and love with your partner, and even being, I really love the concept of genuinely appreciating something that you take for granted. Like just saying, I really appreciate that you took the garbage out. That's not a task I enjoy doing. And I love you so much. And I really appreciate that. And I don't want you to think that I don't notice and don't appreciate that. Maybe, sharing something like that with actual emotion, with true appreciation, with true emotion, not just the words, the emotional level of that. Then not only do you feel good and they feel good, as you were describing, but they also are likely to want to repeat that behavior, because by repeating that behavior, they might feel good again, because like Maslow's theory, this behavior created this emotional response from my significant other. So there's just so many ways of that experience, I think, that can come back to us and to them in different ways that we just, we don't, it's not a habit for most of us in society. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. I appreciate your appreciation. I remember reading something and I thought, there's some truth in that, and it's worth committing to memory and just ruminating on and processing. But it's from like the godfather of personal and professional development, Tony Robbins, who he wouldn't call himself a godfather, but he is of this generation. And he said that the quality of your life is nothing more than the quality of your emotions. And I thought, you know what, there is some truth in that. And I think that appreciating like your emotional state and your ability to grow in your your ability to grow in your ability to experience life better and better. Like in any given moment, I mean, basically our reticular activating system is choosing at any given moment what to focus on. It's taking in millions of bits of information, and it's clearing all of it out except for what's important to us. And so if what becomes increasingly important to us is the experience of positive emotions, therefore the experience of a positive life, and sharing that, basically helping other people have positive emotions and have a positive life ever increasingly, and growing in your ability to experience life well, to journey well, that is what I'm excited about. It's like, man, if I'm this happy now with these problems, when my problems are bigger, because that's what happens with success, your problems actually get bigger because the value that you're creating for people is directly proportional to the size and the difficulty of the problems that you're solving for people. So you take an extreme of that and you look at the root of the word hero, which means ultimate servant. So you imagine Superman flying in to save 100 people about to fall off a ledge into a waterfall, and they can't save themselves, but Superman comes and saves them. He's an ultimate servant to them, and he is therefore a hero. So how are you being heroic in a way, but also a guide, which is a whole other thing we can get into. But how are you serving? How are you loving? And how are you helping people themselves have positive emotions and positive experience? Because giving really is better than receiving. And if we look at living life and journeying well and getting better at life, which I can imagine, is something that everybody listening to this would want to do. Let's get better at life. Well, the experience of life ourselves, and then is sharing that with others, creating value for people, and therefore growing your ability to create value for people, and therefore having bigger problems to solve because you have the capacity to solve them. It makes me think also, sorry, these are a couple of just thoughts on this concept, but I think about, from Spider-Man, there's this quote that's well known that's, with great power comes great responsibility. But also I believe that it's equally true that with great responsibility comes great power. And so when you take responsibility for yourself to experience life better and to experience more positive emotions, specifically when you have, some kind of disagreement or you're faced with some kind of little problem with somebody or a partner or a spouse, even, and then you're basically choosing what story you tell and what meaning you give to literally everything. And so when you give a more truthful meaning and you give a more empowering meaning that serves both of you, then you can experience that and you can share that, and you can be responsible with that interaction instead of responding from a place of and choosing a response in a story you're telling yourself from fear and lack. That kind of response looks like blowing up or anger or some kind of negative response. Whereas if you can have such strength to choose a loving response and reach for the most loving place, you have a reservoir and you actually have an abundance of grace to offer, that it's just simply a matter of choice to reach down there and grab some grace and share that. That is responding with from a place of love, and that is being responsible even in that little interaction, which leads to more interactions, which leads to more responsibility and ultimately also more power. And when I say more power, that isn't a self-seeking, power-hungry, like you want power. You want the ability to serve and give, as you're uniquely designed and wired to do that. And so I say all that to say, yeah, with great power comes great responsibility, but also with great responsibility comes great power. And the worst decision that you ever make, where there's the greatest shame and regret, was preceded by a bunch of little bad decisions. So there's never like a small decision, but the opposite is true as well. The decision that you make, that it was, you look back, and even when you look forward, your best decision that yields the best results, that you are most proud of, and has changed your life and positively impacted you and those around you, that best decision was actually preceded by several good decisions. So it's like you've got a spectrum, like here's the best decision you've ever made, here's the worst decision you've ever made. In any given moment, you're making either a slightly bad decision or a slightly good decision. And when you understand that everything is interconnected, everything is a chain reaction. So either you're going to go like this, you're going to make a little bad decision, which leads to that, your greatest shame, greatest regret. Or you're going to make a decision that's like on this side of the line, and that is interconnected to your best decision, where you have the most like pride and excitement and joy and life change. And it goes back to the story that I shared about, like, it was literally me deciding, yes, I'm going to run. It's midnight. I don't want people to say I'm going to go running tonight. And like consistently making a bunch of little good decisions, it ultimately leads up. Yeah.
The book, The
Your
Slight
best
Edge,
decision.
that really resonates
Oh
with
yeah.
the concept of just small. It seems little. It seems small, like to make the decision to, just sleep in a little longer and not wake up and do it by morning meditation or affirmations or whatever it is. But the slight edge of not doing that over time versus the slight edge of doing that over time can absolutely lead to a much more profound place at the end. I love your connection though with the idea of the decisions, like small little decisions can lead to this big decision, because Tony Robbins actually also shares that your life changes in an instant. It's like a decision: love him, leave him, do it, don't do it. Like it's like an instant. But to your point, it's not. The instant is when maybe the huge shift happened, but it doesn't happen by accident. You don't fall there to that point. So I love that connection of awareness for folks to just like really think about every one of those little individual steps.
Absolutely. I mean, it really does make life exciting when you think about the power of that. Because to decide means to cut off. So with every little decision, you're cutting off like an endless amount of other things that you could be doing. Like I could just think a thought and decide, all right, I'm out, or I could do whatever. Like I could choose in any given moment what to do and what not to do. And I'm cutting off with every decision every other possibility. And so like as you grow in your awareness of the power of that, the power of literally every given moment, every thought you think, every word you say, is so incredibly important. Like I believe that the power of words is far beyond what we'll ever really be able to appreciate. Like I don't think that science will ever truly be able to capture the power of words. Really, we'll get better at that. I believe that studies will show decades from now or whatever, like, oh my goodness, we can measure the power of words and the conversion of that energy in a way that we never have been able to. And maybe it's AI, or maybe there's some way to do it, but I believe that it's so profoundly beyond our understanding that yeah, I for me, I even have this story like that's kind of played out in the movie screen of my mind of a guard that stands guard at the door of my mind, or like, and basically there's like, and it is at war all the time. Like there's these like monsters that are trying to get in that, you know, are seemingly like, you know, they don't seem to make an impact, but they really like, and then there's monsters in disguise, you know, but basically there's this guard at the door of my mind, and it is my choice as to who and what I let in. So some of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work is actually very fascinating to me, because Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about how if it like he does not let a thought go unchecked, meaning if a thought comes to his mind that he does not want to experience in reality, he stops it in its tracks and he gives it a counter, and he says like, no, like I'm going to counter that. And you can counter it more powerfully. Like if you have a thought like, oh man, it's probably not going to work out. It's probably not going to work out. You've got to stop that thought in its tracks, and you've got to, and when you counter it with like, it is going to work out, and here's how it's going to work out, and this is how we're going to feel. This is how I'm going to feel when it does, and it's going to be amazing. That's what I call focusing on the win. And that I've got to share. Like I've seen countless interviews, and I've very strategically, once the light bulb went off, we're living in the information age, and like not too long ago at all, we did not have access to this information. And now, like, I mean, very new is this ability to have access to the best teaching from the best teachers on the planet for free. It's it's attached to you, like if you've got a smartphone. And so take advantage of that opportunity. So I have taken advantage of that opportunity, and I have intentionally been exposed to at least 30 minutes to an hour a day to the best teaching from the best teachers according to my value system. So I've learned a lot, and I've seen a lot of interviews. An interview that really stands out to me is from a guy that our value systems aren't 100% aligned, but I appreciate him as an athlete because he's a boxer that's 50-0 currently. That's liable to change because he's coming out of retirement, but his name is Floyd Mayweather, undefeated professionally. He was being interviewed, and I remember this interview because he was asked, like, how have you done it? 50-0. Like, what is it? What has given you the ability to go through your career and be undefeated? And what he said was great. He said, other fighters that I have fought have been faster than me. There are other guys that have been stronger than me. There are guys that are more talented than me in some ways, physically. But he said, nobody has beat me at my mental game. Then what he said next, I'll never forget. He said, I never think about losing. I only think about winning. That stopped me in my tracks, actually, literally, because I was running at the time listening to it. And I was like, I stopped. I was like, dang, I know I think about losing. I know that fear is a friend misunderstood. Fear is a wiring that helps us survive. Like, it's a wonderful friend, but it is the quickest foe. Fear is the fastest foe, because a strength overutilized quickly becomes a weakness. Fear is the first one in line for that, because we will be fearful of something and process it as, okay, well, I should not do this because look at the risk, and look at a position of uncertainty and danger, you know. And so then it becomes this incredible weakness, because fear breeds inaction, which yields negative results. Nothing happens. It's actually easier to be fearful and pessimistic than it is to be positive and optimistic. The reason is because you can have fear and say, it's not going to work out. And then you do nothing. And then you say, yes, see, I was right. It didn't work out. It's like, well, you didn't do anything. So of course it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's very important to be an optimistic realist, where you lead with your optimism and then create the reality and take action based on your optimism. Lead with optimism, but be realistic. So be an optimistic realist.
Yep. I love
So yeah, with him, it's just think, like, only focus on the win. Only focus on the win. Every thought impulse it has a tendency to clothe itself in its physical equivalent. One of my favorite lines from one of our favorite books, Think and Grow Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Every thought impulse has a tendency to clothe itself in its physical equivalent. So in other words, every thought is trying to become reality.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think thoughts of fear and doubt, that's trying to become reality just as much as what you're hopeful for. And so everything is a chain reaction. Everything is matter moving. And the beginning of the chain reaction of almost everything in your life begins with a thought. Now, as you're listening to me, you can't see your thoughts, but physical matter is moving in your brain. Your fascinating, wonderful brain. It's something moving there, and it's an electrical firing and connection of cells and neurons, and they are literally physically moving. This is a little spark, but that little spark and that little physical movement is the beginning of the chain reaction of your world. It is energy. Thoughts are things, very powerful things. So when you convert that energy, any thought you have, into a more powerful form of energy, which is actual, like, reality, there's a manifestation of that, like the thought, physical motion, that is reality. It's the physical firing of specific things to give you that thought. But then when you convert it to a new form of energy, which is the spoken word,
Mm-hmm.
or written, or any, like, motion, physical movement, that is like, that is so interconnected to everything. It's literally the beginning of the chain reaction of all the of physical matter moving in your world. So you are absolutely, like, co-authoring your life. There's things that are out of your control, but so much that is within your control that literally is based on a choice at any given moment. And so the leveraging of that power is incredibly extraordinary. I mean, the thought, like, hey, we should let's hop over to Europe. Let's move the whole family over to Europe. That's a powerful thought. That can move some matter. That would physically move matter, right? But if I think it and I never say it, and like, it never converts to the beginning of the next form of energy, then it never happens. So the thoughts you think are incredibly important. The words you say, like, the world around you really is like a reflection of, and an expression of, a very real expression, tangible expression of the words that you have spoken your life. Really all of your life, really about yourself and about others, or to yourself and to others.
Mm-hmm.
So I say all that to say, choose your words very carefully. Do not let a thought go by unchecked that you don't want to physically experience, understanding, like, every thought is trying to become reality.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, like, don't just play defense, but play offense, and say, okay, not only will I not let that thought in anymore, or that story that is a disempowering story be told in my mind anymore. You've got to call out stories that you realize, oh, I'm so accustomed to telling this story, I didn't even realize it. It's like fish not being aware of the water they're in, or humans being aware of the air. It's a whole other conversation. And so when you have that moment of self-awareness to say, oh my goodness, this is a disempowering thought and a disempowering story, and something I don't want to experience anymore, stop it. Choose a story that's empowering and that is actually closer to the truth usually the better stories are actually the more truthful stories.
Mhm.
And so not only stand guard of the door of your mind and don't let a thought pass unchecked. The strength of that guard is directly proportional to your acceptance of the power of your choice of thought. Beyond that, and your standard of what thoughts you let in and what stories you tell based on those thoughts. But in addition to that, goodness gracious, the power of your words. Only speak the words that are building and that form the life that you really want for yourself, and goodness, especially for your loved ones.
Mhm. I love there's so much you just shared there, but the power of words, I really appreciate, because I think what's interesting is for a lot of our listeners and a lot of people, it's it's like, for example, I remember Les Brown. He said, instead of saying I'm broke, never say that again. Say I'm working through a cash flow problem, which is
Mm-hmm.
slightly better. You may, if you could take it a level up from that and say I'm working towards financial abundance or financial freedom, or depending on your level of beliefs, because there has to be an emotional connection. But I think it's really interesting for people. The words are so powerful, but I imagine it's difficult. I know it's difficult from my own experience. I've worked on it for a long time as well, to see the reality and choose a different word. Say, no, but I am broke. Like I'm not making up a story. I looked at my bank account. Like there's a lot of, I think for a lot of people, it's identifying the reality, being aware of it. You know, my husband left, or something may have happened in the reality where everything that you're saying is, I believe, intensely, and I know it's true, and it's so inspiring and empowering. I loved all of the way you described it. But a lot of people, when they go home and they go off and they start trying this, they start trying to put the guard up to their mind and say, don't let that thought in, don't say those words. And then they're like, no, but it's true. My husband did leave me. I'm not guarding that thought. It's a fact. Or how can I say words differently? So I don't know. I'd love your thoughts on that, but I know there's a few strategies I've used and a lot of things that have helped that process. But I think that's something that I often have heard from folks is, but it's true. It's the truth.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear your thoughts on
I appreciate that. I believe that in every given moment, that there is a life lesson tucked in. Not only every moment, but really like everything around you serves a purpose that is for you, and even deeper than that. I believe if you look for it, it's only those who seek will find this to be true. Um, Looking at anything around you and anyone around you, every bit of their molecular makeup, even down to their to every molecule. I believe that every molecule is placed there from a place of love, like and when you look for that, you can see that. And so I believe that like life really is happening for us. And so you give the example of like, well, yeah, no, my partner did leave me, and I'm in this situation. Yeah, I understand that. I know that everybody listening to this right now can see where doors have closed in their lives uh, previously for better doors to open. Like without certain doors closing, other doors you can't open. I remember seeing an interview with Will Smith, and Will Smith used the example of Tarzan, like Tarzan swinging from one vine to another. Tarzan has got to let go of that other vine, of the vine that just saved him, just carried his whole life, and brought him from A to B. He has got to let go of that to grab the other vine. Not only are you grabbing the next vine, but you're letting go of the other. Now there are vines that you need to hang on to and not let go of, and and certainly some to let go of. And so when you can identify, okay, well, this is a vine I need to let go of, so I can grab that next vine, then, and you just continue to do that, and you continue to decide better for yourself and others, and become more and more self-aware, like, oh, okay, here's where I'm under indexing. Here's where I'm not making the best decision. Maybe I'm making this decision that gives me the immediate gratification, but the long-term detriment. And rather, I will make the harder decision, which is the immediate detriment or moment of uncertainty or moment of risk, or, um, or whatever, but long-term benefit. And when you make those decisions over and over and over, and this to be true, certainly in health. I mean, it's like everywhere in health with every decision, from your diet to your exercise, your habits, like, almost every best decision means you are choosing something that you probably don't want to like do, until you get to the point where it's like, okay, I can't not do this. I love this. But then you've got whatever your next level is in your health, whatever level you're at, it's something that you actually don't want to do. You can take somebody that's like you see them at the gym and you're like, dang, they're a freak. They're amazing. Look at them. They're on that next level. They are at that next level. My next level is that. They've got a next level that they probably don't want to do, that, like what it means is for them to do it is to get out of their comfort zone and to make a decision that isn't immediately gratifying, but long-term is. That's just a part of, like, that's not just in health, that's literally everywhere. Yeah. Anyway, so I say all that to say, when it comes to the stories and the meanings, and again, going back to close to the beginning of our conversation, when I said I believe that everybody's facing some problem, that if everybody knew about it, they'd say, are you okay? Like, so you are not alone. Whoever's listening, that we're all facing problems. And with proper perspective, we can see that they are, pressure is a privilege and problems are a privilege. And many of the problems, especially as entrepreneurs, many of the problems we have as entrepreneurs are goodness. I mean, totally self-inflicted and what we chose. Like, I would rather face the problems I'm faced with now on this journey of success, using the definition of success from Earl Nightingale, the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So if you're progressing towards a worthy ideal that you determined as an entrepreneur, congrats, consider yourself successful and experience how wonderful it is to make progress at any level. Progress feels amazing at any level, as you progressively realize your worthy ideal. And so I've found great peace in moments of, okay, he left, she left, here's this problem that's like, how can I tell myself something positive about this? What's the positive? Where's the positive? Truly, after you get, problems are problems. They suck. I mean, when you go through real problems, like, you feel it. Like, I'm not inhuman. Like, I feel the weight. But then you get past it and you get to an empowering state, and then you can see the truth more. You can be more objective, and then you can see the blessing, and you can see the learning that you get. It's been said, it's not like you succeed or fail. It's like you succeed or learn. So take your learning, apply your learning, and grow. And so, your relationship to failure is an important one, because it's important that you see failure as learning, so that you actually apply learning, so you don't continue on that path of failure, of course, but also for you to experience the benefit of the experience. Like, to me, it's like life is just too short. Life is too short, like, not to appreciate everything that happens for you. So the more that you have this understanding, that there's a 1 in 400 trillion chance that you're even alive and experiencing anything. Yes, including this. When you get to that empowering state, after you experience the problem, hopefully increasingly temporarily, where you feel those gnarly negative feelings, and you tell yourself, like, what is good about this? Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. So when you get back to an empowering state and you look for the learning, or you look for, okay, 1 in 400 trillion chance that I'm even alive experiencing anything, including this. Everybody has problems. I'm not exempt. And of all the problems I could be experiencing, this is the one I'm experiencing. And usually, like, outside of like going through something tragic, but if you're going through and you're having like a career problem, or you're having whatever problem that isn't necessarily a tragedy, like, you can wake up and appreciate the fact that you have breath in your lungs. This is actually something I practice every day. Literally this morning, I've done it for years. It's one of the most impactful, joy injecting habits of my life, which is, it takes less than 30 seconds sometimes. But like, the first thing I do every day is I put my hand on my chest, I take a deep breath, and I focus on that breath. So it's hyper-focused gratitude. I take a deep breath and I say a little prayer of gratitude for that breath, understanding that it is numbered, understanding that I will not wake up and have this experience one day. So I wake up and I think, oh, I didn't die. Like, oh, I'm not dead yet. And this is it. That is, and another, like, okay, so I do that with my breath, and I do that with my heartbeat. I'll focus on my heartbeat, because how often normally do people think about their breathing or their heartbeat? That's just happening for them and giving them the very life they have and the very experiences that they have. Goodness gracious, life is too short not to be very aware of your mortality in a very positive way. I have this line that goes through my head at some point during the day, any given day, just about now, where it's like, this is it. This is it. This is it. I'm here. I get to have this experience. It sounds morbid in a bad way, but it's really morbid in a great way. As if like I were to die tomorrow, because it's going to feel like that when I am old. And I look back at this Trey and say, oh my gosh, he's so young and he's, so silly, whatever. And God willing, I have like several years ahead of me such that I am, I do live a long life. And I know I'm going to feel like I had this conversation. I woke up in the morning and I was 70 or 80 or 90. And it's going to feel like that. I already know it because I already feel that. So because of that, I just have this like daily check where it's like, this is it. One of the biggest life hacks, joy hacks, fulfillment hacks, like just a shot of joy and fulfillment and excitement. One of the biggest life hacks is to consider the alternative. Consider the alternative. And my goal is to become increasingly good at considering the alternative. Like, I did wake up and I thought, all 4 kids are healthy and happy, and we're not in the hospital somewhere, and we're not doing this, we're not doing that. There's so many things that could have happened that were divinely prevented, out of my control, out of my power of choice. Like, there's so many problems I could be facing right now that I am not facing right now. And I am facing this problem where I do have the power of choice, and I do have the ability to find a solution and make that reality and get past this problem and on to the next one. Knowing that my problems are only going to increase. So why wait
Mhm.
for this problem to go away, for me to be happy
Before you feel good. Okay.
before I feel good.
Once this problem is solved, then I will feel good. I really appreciate your sharing because I believe this and I know this to be true. And I remember hearing it for the first time, not even that long ago, like within the past couple of years. And I was a bit appalled that when you this more successful you get, the more problems you have, the larger your problems get. You said this a little while ago in our conversation, but if you're waiting to be happy for when this problem is solved, you're going to have another problem, especially if you become more successful by solving this current problem, then the next one will probably be bigger. So I really appreciate you, that concept of just being present in this moment and realizing.
I appreciate that, Nicole. Well, I know that everybody listening right now, they want to create value. They want to be of service. They want to make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
One way to really discover and to increasingly clarify your purpose, like, why are you here? Why are you here? It's the impact that you can make, and it's the problems that you can solve, and it's a way that you can bring joy to life for others. It's a way that you can make the world a better place. And so whatever, like a question that you can ask, and not just once, but on an ongoing basis, is like, what breaks your heart? Specifically, what breaks your heart? And then when you apply your time and energy, your thought energy, into your words, into your actions, into your time, which is goodness, your greatest resource. Warren Buffett saying, I can buy anything except time. I cannot buy time.
Love it.
How are you leveraging your time here, your greatest resource, to make an impact and to serve? And so if you see success as solving problems for people and helping your fellow human in the ways that specifically break your heart. So for example, with me, I see so many people living a shell, like a fraction of the wonderful human emotions and like joy and fulfillment that they could, just given not an untruthful, like rainbows and butterflies detached from reality perspective, but actually the opposite, a more truthful perspective, which is you won the lottery 10 times over to be here and experience whatever you're experiencing. So, and also to view like a paradigm, it's like, for people to understand, is like the lows are what makes the highs high.
Contrast, the law of contrast.
If you didn't have that contrast, that polarity, that spectrum, you wouldn't even know what joy and fulfillment in your favorite parts of life and being a human even is. It wouldn't have any value because it's not dynamic. And we're very dynamic. Days are dynamic. You can have an extreme low and an extreme high in an hour, in less than that. Like, much less your days, your weeks, your months, your quarters, your years, your decades coming onto this next decade. And so something for me is like, what breaks my heart is like, I want people to view life just a little bit more the way I do, and as I understand it, in a way that serves them, that gives them the capacity to serve others and to solve problems the way that they are uniquely able to solve. And as they see themselves as not fixed, but growing, ever growing in their ability to help people and to solve problems, and not only like the quantity of problems or the size of the problem. And they see themselves like, as, I hope my problems get bigger, meaning not like, the crazy things that happen in life that you have no control over, and not those kind of problems, but specifically with entrepreneurs and career, even like with the way that you're leveraging your value creation from a career perspective as an entrepreneur. Hopefully you're able to solve the problem at scale, such that your problem, the problem that you now have the capacity to solve, grows. And so a little bow on the end of that is, I actually had a moment of self-awareness. I'm a huge believer in personal development, personal growth. And I understand, like, if the people that, or the, say that you're a, you sell to businesses, and your clients are businesses. And if the businesses that you want um, to see you, if they're not seeing you, then in a way you're not good enough yet, like is a concept, and a reality. But for me, it's like, I was telling a friend not too long ago, we were catching up, and I told him, like, in regards to our next level with our business, I said, and this was just in passing and just catching up, but I said, yeah, we're not good enough yet. And just kind of kept going, kind of, with the intention to say, or the meaning behind it was like, hey, like, I'm excited to grow and become. It's a story of becoming. We're all in the story of becoming the people and the organizations that can actually pull off what we aspire to pull off, right? However, I had a moment of self-awareness where I realized the story I was telling myself was, I'm not good enough yet to pull this off.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually just driving from that little meeting. I didn't even expect to see him. But I was telling him about our next steps and our next level. And I realized that I phrased it that way. We're not good enough yet to experience that level. Meaning, like, I'm excited about the challenge to become that.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I phrased it was incredibly powerful in a negative way. There is a better way to position that, which is, I am, and we are good enough to solve the problem in front of us. We are good enough to pull this off. What is this? Well, it's that. And we are good enough to pull that off and get that exposure, specifically in this example. With that mentality, and it's the slightest tweak. It's the slightest tweak, but it has a huge impact. It's like, no, we are, like, so I now identify myself as a person that can pull off what I aspire to pull off, and what we as an organization aspire to pull off. We are good enough yet. We're doing it. So another small tweak, again, like, words are incredibly powerful. Phraseology and positioning in the mind, and the mind of an organization is incredibly powerful. So, like, instead of saying we're gonna do X, like, gonna is like, an F-bomb. It's like not we're gonna do, we're doing, means we're in the process of. So instead of saying we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, make a slight tweak and say, oh, we're doing X, Y, and Z. What that communicates is that's our plan, that's our objective, that's our that's what we're doing. And it also communicates a level of commitment to the decision.
Yes, totally.
Not a partial decision, not a, hey, we're gonna do whatever. No, we're doing. It's decided.
Mm-hmm.
The other options are cut off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're burning the boats and taking the island. So instead of saying we're gonna, or I'm gonna, to say we're doing, I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And those little shifts, those little tweaks, as you go, you learn more and more. What's a more empowering way to move forward? What's a more empowering way to view my problems, such that I can reduce and minimize and extirpate, completely uproot a problem that I have experienced in the past, by telling myself a more empowering story that serves me. And one last example, I know, like, if whoever has listened to all of this, I really appreciate. But I will say that I had an example, personal example, where growing up, I did live a wonderful life, and I've lived a wonderful life. I'm living a wonderful life, and goodness, my future I'm super excited about. And I have plenty of problems too. So, let me just share that. But early on, like in my 20s, I just had a really hard time remembering. There were just, like, big parts of my life. I was like, I don't remember. And I know that it was great. It had its parts that I wish I could remember, and I couldn't. And so I just had this spiral of belief that I have a bad memory, which was the truth. And I just had this self-fulfilling prophecy that was like, I have a bad memory. Oh my goodness, I have a terrible memory. You know, I can't remember. Like, oh my goodness, what's wrong with me? And one of my greatest fears was like, I'm going to live a great life and I'm not going to be able to remember any of it. And it actually got me in the habit of like recording a lot. And it's like, as an old man, like I want to at least be able to flip through and watch videos. But what happened was I actually started telling myself, even though I didn't believe it fully at the time, but I started saying out loud, I did an experiment where I actually just started telling myself, it was after reading How to Win Friends. Think and Grow Rich, with this whole, every thought is trying to become reality. It's like, all right, great, let's try this out.
Nice.
And I was like, and I started saying, I have a great memory. Mm-hmm. I remember things so well. Oh my goodness, my memory is like getting so good. And guess what happened over about the course of a year?
And how often per day, or can you just, before you answer?
I would say at least like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times a month. Like it was like a weekly type of thing where I would just have a moment where I'd get frustrated at myself for forgetting something. And I would forget something. Mm-hmm. And I would get frustrated, like, again. But I just started telling myself, I have a great memory. Mm-hmm. My memory is like so incredible. And truly, like something that the book Think and Grow Rich, which has an incredible following, if you have read it, you love it. If you haven't, you'll find that there's an incredible following of that book for a reason. But one thing it says, one gem that's tucked away in there somewhere, is that every cell is eavesdropping on your thoughts. Basically, every cell in your body is eavesdropping on the thoughts that you say. And so another tangible way is like if you're scared, you're going to have certain biochemicals released and you're going to experience that. You're going to feel it all over your body. Your legs are going to tingle. If you're happy or joyful, whatever, and you smile and, have a moment of like just bliss that because of what you're focused on, you're actually biochemically releasing, like it literally physically affects your entire body. So your beliefs really do affect your body, and it's very it is true that every cell is eavesdropping on every thought.
Yep, I've got some personal stories of that as well. So not for today.
I know you do.
I agree with that. It took me a long time to realize what had happened, but once I discovered that, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I say all that to say, my memory has very much improved, and it's been incredible. Like sometimes I would remember things, and I remember when I was surprised that I could remember that. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I remember that. That's fantastic. And so I looked for it, and you really do. You find what you're looking for, which is a whole other discussion, but you do find what you're looking for. So know what you're looking for and keep looking for it and keep going for it. And the clearer it is, the more, the faster you'll be able to find it. The clearer the what and the why, the easier the how and the faster the how, or the sooner the when, WHEN. Anyway, so I say all that to say, focus on the win. Only think about winning, which is offense and defense. Defense being, hey, like, these fears that serve us and help us survive are great, but then here's where a strength overutilized is becoming an incredible weakness. So fear can become the fastest foe. Don't let this happen. But a way that you cannot let that happen is really to focus on the win, because you are playing offense and defense to win, but not fear-based, but based on a powerful state, powerful thoughts, powerful words, powerful, spoken words, powerful written words, powerful energy that takes you to where you want to go. And when you think about losing or the loss or whatever, that is like, it's crippling you and breeding in action. Fear breeds in action. And it's taking you closer there. Just thinking about it is the beginning of the chain reaction to that actually becoming reality. So that's where you have to absolutely cut that off, starting with the thoughts you think, even though you might feel like a part of you feels like, hey, I'm like connected to reality here and I'm in touch with myself such that I am aware of what to be fearful of, and I'm aware of what could happen. So yeah, you can still be aware, you can still have loss prevention in light of total energy focused on the win. So when you're thinking about the loss, whether it's like a personal thing, the smallest little thing, even a loss of like connection with your spouse, or loss of revenue, or loss of a client, or loss of anything, big or small. There is always, when you think about that loss, there is always a win to counter that loss. And you must have the strength and the fortitude and the self-awareness and the discipline to say, I have a moment of self-awareness where I realize I'm thinking about the loss and I'm giving energy to that, and it is a bad decision that's leading to a worse decision. So I'm only going to think about and give energy to and give life to and give like thought energy, word energy, written energy, physical matter moving. This matter moving creates all this other energy focused entirely on the win that leaves the loss in the dust, and that's again why I really like, even though it's Floyd Mayweather, I really like what he said. Nobody's beat me at my mental game. Other people have beat me at my physical game, but nobody beats me at my mental game because I only think about winning. I only think about winning. I realize I don't only think about winning. Yeah. I do think about losing, and I'm getting better at not thinking about losing because I know I'm giving energy to that. I'm giving life to that. And that those thoughts are trying to become reality. Only focus on the win, only give energy to that. Then it doesn't even make time for it. Doesn't, and you're experiencing like fear is experiencing failure in advance, and it's actually bringing you closer to that failure unnecessarily. Fear is experiencing failure in advance totally unnecessarily, and it's like you're inviting it in. Whereas you can say, I am going to give every drop of energy and time into the win. Yes, even having run through so many brick walls already, now this is a really big one that is like, how is this going to work out? Well, that's a great question to ask. Make that very clear. That's the win. How is this going to work out? Well, this. Here's all the different solutions. There's so many ways to win that you might not even considering or giving energy to or giving life to. Think about all the ways to win, and then clarify that, make it as specific as possible. Give it energy, a new energy with your words. Convert that energy to your word energy to your written energy, and then share with people. Get help. Don't ask little of few, ask much of many. Get people to help you solve a big problem. People want to help people, and people like you need help. I need help. We need help solving, especially big problems. But if we don't think about the win, and we don't focus on the win, and we're giving life to our fears and the loss, starting with our thought energy, which is also time, and every millisecond adds up. Every millisecond counts. Take all of that. Don't even go there. Don't even go there. I know you're going to go there some. I know you're going to feel that some. I know it's a problem. You're going to feel it. You're going to face it. You're going to feel it. I got that. I'm aware of that. However, the better we can say, all right, the way to win and to deal with this properly is to give it zero life. It's not even a consideration. Like, we're decided in advance. We've made the decision in advance that this is not even, it's not even possible. What is that? It's not even there.
Mm-hmm.
The loss does not even exist. The wins do. Here's all the ways we can win. And when you do that over and over, and you get better and better at that, the more you will see the realization of every win.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, starting with the smallest of wins that lead to the biggest of wins. That's why you hear the best thought leaders, like you hear, Oprah Winfrey, like, take the next right step, just like,
Yes.
just
Um, I wanted to share just a tip on that you reminded me of. I think it's a combination of Tony Robbins and Michael Beckwith on the questions, because you're talking about asking, instead of, you're talking about words, you're talking about questions, instead of focusing on the problem, focus on the solution. And I believe so deeply, because it's changed my life, is the way you ask the question. If the question is, I don't know, or the wording is, I don't know how I'll ever get out of this problem. Or even if it's, how will I ever get out of this problem? You're focusing on the problem instead of, how can I find a solution more quickly? How can I find an even better solution? Even better solution, implying there's a solution, but how can I find an even better solution? How, or who can help me to find a solution? You talked about people, of course, like, so if the question, if you're in the problem, instead of, this is just reminding me of this, instead of saying, how can I overcome this problem? Which is not that bad. Like, at least you're thinking about overcoming it, but, or, how will I ever deal with this problem, versus saying, how can, what are some ideas that can make this solution easier, or that who can I ask to help advance this process? And, but just literally wording it in a positive way and in an assumptive way that I'm assuming it exists. I know it exists, the solution, but who can I find to help me solve this even faster, or make it, turn this into a benefit instead of a problem. And but asking the questions that way, and when you ask, you'll receive
mm-hmm.
answers. But if you ask, how will I ever overcome this, or I don't know, or then you're not going to get a very good answer. Or
Yeah.
Here's a better question, here's an even worse question: why does this keep happening to me? Why do I keep getting into this similar type of problem? You're going to get an answer. The answer is, because you're not good enough. The answer is all the stories that are in your paradigm that are limiting beliefs and not truths. But if you ask the question, how can I once and for all overcome this obstacle?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to get an answer to that. So anyways, it just really aligned with what you were saying. And I almost forgot about the concept of the power of words and the power of the way you ask yourself a question when you're presented with an obstacle like that. Any
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what's very powerful, in my experience, what's been powerful is to just experience the gratitude in advance for the solution.
Oh,
Like, whatever the solution is, knowing like there is a solution. Like, we must get past this problem. Like, and I'm grateful in advance for that solution. I'm grateful in advance for that solution. Like, you do experience it now, and you actually do experience it later. Like, every problem that you've gotten past. It's now in your past. And there's so many that you're like, oh man, I remember that. Oh, I felt like, hopeless when I was faced with that problem. But that problem has not been a problem for a long time. That problem is now, far in my past, and I've got this other set of problems. So your relationship with your problems are incredibly important, because they drastically affect the quality of your life. If you're looking at the quality of your life as nothing more than the quality of your emotions, if whatever is true of that, whether that's 80% or 100% true, or somewhere in there, the quality of your life is nothing more than the quality of your emotions. And this coming from Tony Robbins, who has worked with the wealthiest, most successful people on the planet. For him to say that, knowing his background and knowing the people of impact and great success as they define success, for him to say that, the context makes me appreciate
Mm-hmm.
the truth in it. Therefore, your relationship with your problems, being determined to have a good relationship with your problems, a healthy relationship with your problems that empowers you to solve them faster, to get through your problems, like seeing them like hurdles. You're running down the racetrack and you've got these hurdles, and it's just a matter of like, your relationship with your problems allows you either to be timid and not jump as high, or not have like the adrenaline required to, and the belief required to, hey, when you jump, you're going to actually get over that one. Like the faster you run, it's almost like those problems, like, well, first of all, you have the adrenaline, you have the belief, right, to actually jump higher, to jump faster, to get past it, to jump over those problems faster, because of your level of belief and determination and focusing on the win. Like, I'm jumping over this thing. Rather than, oh man, that looks pretty tall and I'm pretty tired. And anyway, so like, but sometimes when you run, the faster you run, many times those hurdles like absolutely actually disappear. It's like they get out of your way for you. Like, oh, they're running too fast. It's like they just roll out of the way for you. Like, all right, let's just give them a straightaway. So, be a force of nature, which in my world and in the technology entrepreneurial world, there's Y Combinator. One of the leaders of Y Combinator said that when he meets a founder, he asks himself the question, is this a force of nature? Is this person a force of nature? That's a matter of choice, actually. That's not like, well, my DNA and my zip code and whatever, there's all these limitations. My parents, my past, that thing, like I couldn't get past before. Why should I expect it? No. Like, choose to be a force of nature. Be a force of nature. Identify yourself as a force of nature, which actually, I'm sure by definition, in some way, shape, or form, you are a force of nature. So be that. And
love that.
Then identity, there's no force greater than the human personality than to remain consistent with how you see yourself, how you define yourself. So when you bake into your identity, I am a force of nature. I am moving forward. This problem is about to be gone. I am lighting a match to that problem. I am burning it. It will be ash. Like, what's the problem? Let's go. Knowing also that there are problems that have really, beat you down. You've been in the boxing ring of life and hit the canvas, But I will say also with that analogy, you do have people in your corner in the boxing ring of life where you can always look up, whether you're on the canvas or you're up on your feet and, playing offense and landing punches. You can always look into your corner, and there will always be people in your corner with a nodding head of approval and there to support you, whether you feel like it or not. So just know that you do have that support system. And don't tell yourself otherwise, because that isn't the truth. Because we're humans, and people love to be, in people's corner. And if you don't feel that way, if any listeners are hearing this and need somebody to be in your corner as an entrepreneur or whatever, feel free to contact me. I'd love to be that for you. But oh yeah, I giving the analogy of the running, it made me think of Jesse Itzler and the power of words. Jesse Itzler is a co-owner of the basketball team in Atlanta, the Atlanta Hawks, and has an incredible build your life resume event business. And fascinating guy, fascinating story. And he's the husband of Sarah Blakely, billionaire founder of Spanx. So they're wonderful. Yeah. And they're here in Atlanta. So I was listening to Jesse speak last week at an event, and he shared the story of running 100 miles in a 24-hour period. And it was like hour 22, and he had run, however many miles. And he had just hit this wall where like his toes are bleeding, like toenails are like in his shoes, or like he is like bloodied, and like, and he was running with a friend, and he was just feeling it. He was like, I don't know if I can go the whole 100 miles in 24 hours. And this is just like a really brutal scene. I mean, he is legitimately in trouble and tired. And so his friend says, well, Jesse, that's funny. I never get tired. And this is after running like whatever, 80 or 90 miles. And Jesse was like, his friend said, hey, Jesse, say that. He's like, what are you talking about? I am tired. Like, I'm about to die, And his friend said, no, Jesse, tell me that you never get tired. I never get tired. It's amazing. I never get tired. And so, he said, so tell me you never get tired. And so Jesse Bitzler says, okay, I never get tired, And then the guy said, no, tell me you never get tired. And so Jesse says, okay, I never get tired. He said, his friend says, no, tell the people around us that you never get tired. And Jesse Itzler says, guys, it's amazing. I never get tired. I never get tired. It's absolutely incredible. And then his friend grabs him and says, all right, let's go. And then they kick on to a new level, and they pick up the pace, and they keep that pace, and they make it the 100 miles in 24 hours. And he wasn't tired. And so he leveraged the power of words. He leveraged the power of like identity, like he's a person that never gets tired. There is just a reservoir and a power there, where even like elite athletes that have pushed themselves really far, like the Navy SEAL who trained Jesse Itzler, his name is David Goggins. David Goggins says that when you feel like you're about to die, like you are like so tired, you can't give it anymore. So much time, so much energy, like really, I can't make it. When you feel that, you're actually about 40% of your capacity of what you can accomplish with your time and your energy and your physicality even. So I use that analogy to say like words really have power, thoughts really have power, and I'm on a journey myself to understand more clearly the power of that. There's little sparks of electricity in our fascinating brains. The beginning of the matter moving. Einstein said that nothing changes until something moves. Nothing changes until something moves. And everything is a chain reaction. Your good decision that leads to your best, or your bad decision that leads to your worst decision. And therefore, best results, right? Only focus on the win, only focus on this, so that you're only going there. Because it's going to take you from here to there with every moment. And it's all interconnected. And so with everything, with every moment of life, with every decision you make, with every thought you think, with every word you say, with every intention you have, with every expectation you have, whatever you're looking for, you'll find it. So like, expect the best in yourself and in others. Look for the best in yourself and in others. And then take massive action and have fun. Life is too short not to have fun every day. Every day, whatever you're doing, have fun doing it. Make it a game, have fun, and just get better at that. Loving the people in your world. Don't just tolerate them, love them, cherish them, adore them, knowing there's a 1 in 400 trillion chance you even have the ability to live life and experience anything, and even greater odds for you to connect with whoever you're talking to, even if it's on a screen or in passing or a close loved one. Like, love loving people and, life, love loving life, and get better at that. And then you can have incredible hope and excitement for your future because you're getting better and there's a long way to go. So anyway, so yeah, that's my message.
Oh, I love that. I really appreciate that summary at the end as well. And I totally agree and really want to just reiterate the like loving life. If you're not having fun, and you're not loving yourself and loving others and loving life, it's all, if you're not going to love it when you at the next accomplishment. We have to really love and appreciate what we have to even be able to receive and appreciate and experience what's coming as well. So I really appreciate this. I feel like this is so powerful. There were so many nuggets in this chat today. I think that we could have a whole life class just in this one session. But yeah, so if people, I think we'll wrap up for today. I'm so grateful for this. I'm going to go watch this probably a few times to take notes and grab all these little nuggets myself. But if people want to get a hold of you, how would they best be able to connect with you?
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Well, just feel free to email me. So I'm the founder of YayStack, which is a referral network. It's just a platform dedicated to authentic referrals. So it's yaystack.co right now. The owner of .com wants a lot of money for it, so we're going to hang on to .co for now. So my email is Trey, Trey, at yaystack.co. Feel free to email me. You can follow me also on Instagram at Trey Roth, TreyRoth. And please reach out. And if you need encouragement, like, I love to encourage. So if you need specific encouragement, let me know what's going on, and I will do everything I possibly can to help you. And be in your corner in the boxing ring of life. So feel free to reach out.
I really appreciated that as well, Trey. I caught that a little while ago. Your offer to, be in others' corners, because I'm sure that there are people who feel that they don't have that in their life, and I hope that they do, and that they can see what they already have as well. But really appreciate that you can have others who, like yourself, offering to really be able to reach out and connect. Just for a quick second, would you mind just explaining what you said? Yes, I know a little bit about it, but just
Sure.
now that you've given that little inkling of what YayStack is, like, what is this amazing man and what is this thing he's doing? Do you mind just doing a quick explanation of?
Absolutely. Happy to do that. So my friends allowed me to live my dream when I took a scary leap of faith into music production. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, oh my goodness, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going to happen. But I am positioning myself, where I've got to learn, I've got to grow, but I'm so passionate about music and music production. I'm just going to go for it. And so it was very scary. But my first client was a friend of mine. We did an album. And then a friend of his said, hey, I like the work that you did, can we do a project? And so we did. And it was my first client connected me with his friend, who then became a client. And then he connected me with another friend, and she became a client. And that ongoing chain of referrals literally grew my business. I never made a business card. I never had a website. I was like off the grid. I wasn't even on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't leveraging the internet at all. And the business was growing every year for 7 years, all based on word of mouth referrals. And so I experienced, as we all do as entrepreneurs, I experienced the power of the word of mouth referral. It's extraordinary. Relationally driven exposure to brands is what Forbes calls the holy grail of marketing. Any referral, an authentic referral from a friend, means at least 1,000 times more to me and is more impactful than any ad for the same product or service, right? In other words, like, instead of traditional marketing where businesses boast about themselves and rave about themselves and say, look at me, look at me, look at me. Like, I want to know, how great the brands are, but not from them. I want to know from the people who share about them and choose to buy from them and choose to be a customer or a client. That is the most powerful form of marketing, the word of mouth referral. So in my experience, word of mouth referrals are incredibly powerful, but they're also incredibly slow. I realized that
Experience that as well.
it takes so long for a customer or a client to have a good experience with you and then to share about it, and then for their friend to become a customer or client as well. That just takes too long. So in order to solve that problem, we built a platform called YayStack, and YayStack is all about authentic referrals. So basically, like from referrals where it's like Oprah's favorite things, but it's Nicole's favorite things, where you're sharing, here's what I love most, down to, hey, here's where I got coffee at this boutique, or this is what I ordered online, or whatever it is. Not a place to brag about stuff, but a place to help spread the word and accelerate the word of mouth referral, to elevate remarkable experiences and elevate remarkable brands that build, empower, and create those experiences, who have people behind it with a dream to create value and to serve people. And so our mission is to accelerate the word of mouth referral and elevate remarkable experiences and brands. So we built YayStack, social network dedicated to authentic referrals. So every piece of content is an authentic referral about a product or service, or a habit or mantra or something that you would recommend authentically. And then it's categorized, so you can see books, podcasts, restaurants, entertainment, products, services, Amazon, whatever it is. And so our goal is basically to build like a Yelp on steroids, where we're like the opposite of Yelp in a way. So like Yelp starts with what? Like a restaurant, but you don't know who said what about the restaurant, right? Like, and sometimes you just don't know, like, okay, well, how much can I trust the referral of this stranger? There is value in that service for sure, because I do look at ratings. But what we do is the opposite of that. So we flip it. We don't start with what and you don't know who. We start with who, people that you know, whether it's friends or influencers or celebrities or whatever, thought leaders, Yay-listers as we call them. We start with who, but you don't know what. You don't know what, necessarily they're going to share, but because it's them that's sharing it is why it's important. And so our big, hairy, audacious goal is, build a referral network and create a trusted source of exposure to brands that deserve to grow faster, because they are by definition remarkable.
I love it. I'm so inspired by the vision, because I 100% agree in the value of word of mouth and some of the challenges with that structure, and to be able to support individuals and entrepreneurs, of course, with the passion of entrepreneurs as well, but to be able to leverage a system like that where you, and even for the person who wants to refer things, like I love to share when I've had a really incredible experience with a product or a service, and to have a place where I can share that, that I know can help support that business as well, is pretty powerful. So I'm so excited about this as well.
I appreciate that, Nicole. Well, I appreciate what you're doing and the value that you're creating, the impact that you're making, and the way that you are choosing to leverage your life and be a guide to help people, and whatever it is specifically that's breaking your heart, and causing you to do what you're doing, and inviting me to share to your audience. It's a privilege, and I really appreciate it. And it is a life, obviously very well invested, and you're making a positive impact. And I appreciate your intention behind doing what you're doing. And so, I know that it will continue to grow. Your impact will continue to grow, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of it.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Fabulous. That break your heart analogy that you gave really resonated with me as well. That was a good way to look at your approach to what you're doing. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. We'll wrap up for today, and hopefully we'll chat again and share some other important messages or tips down the road. But thank you so much again, Trey, and we'll talk to you soon.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Nicole. Have a great day.